The valet barely acknowledged me when he reached for my keys. Maybe it was because of the unremarkable sedan I drove, or maybe it was the awkward, almost protective way I gripped the present as if it were something fragile and irreplaceable. Either way, one thing was clear: I didn't fit in. Not in this place. Not on this night dot at the entrance of the Fairmount Hotel's opulent ballroom. Fairy lights sparkled like stars strung across a dream. Guests floated past in crisp tailored suits and glittering gowns. I lingered for a beat at the edge of the scene, quietly watching a woman in golden stilettos carry a toddler dressed in a tiny velvet blazer stitched with a monogram. Jonas didn't care about monograms. He liked dinosaurs. I adjusted the ribbon on the gift box in my hands. A neon green, remote-controlled helicopter. I'd researched for weeks, pinched every penny for months. He was turning 10. He deserved something joyful, something exciting. But just as I stepped forward, a hand lifted to stop me. "Sorry, ma'am," the security guard said, his tone firm but not unkind. "This is a private function, family members only." "I am family," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "My name's Naharlo. It's my nephew's birthday celebration." He glanced at his clipboard, scanning quickly. "You're not listed?" And that's when I spotted her Vivian materializing in the arched doorway, as though summoned by the tension in the air. Her dress was flawless, a soft shade of lilac that probably cost more than my entire month's grocery budget. Her smile, delicate and deliberate, didn't reach her eyes. "Nah," she said sweetly, tilting her head in a mock gesture of surprise, like she had just remembered I existed. "What are you doing here?" I blinked, trying to stay composed. "I came for Jonas. It's his birthday." Vivian's smile remained undisturbed. "Didn't Mom mention?" "We decided to keep things small this year. Just immediate family." Behind her, a string quartet played something classical and refined. Waiters glided by in pressed black jackets, holding trays of champagne. The guest list had to be pushing 300. "Small," I repeated, the word catching in my throat. She reached out and briefly touched my arm, as if trying to soothe me. "You get it, right?" I didn't, not at all. But I nodded anyway, because that's what I always did. I glanced into the ballroom behind her. I saw my parents, laughing near the tiered cake. I saw the life I thought I still had a place in. Then I turned around and walked back toward the parking lot, the gift still unopened in my arms. I didn't cry, not right then. Instead, I climbed into my car and sat there for a long while, watching the hotel lights melt into blurry halos through the windshield. Eventually, I picked up my phone, scrolled to one contact, and hit the call button. The ballroom windows glowed gold against the fading sky. From where I sat, I could see faint silhouettes moving inside, Vivian spinning in heels, my parents swaying gently to the music. I leaned forward and rested my forehead against the steering wheel, exhaling a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. 7 years ago, when they sold the family house on Redfern Avenue, I was the one who co-signed the mortgage. Mom had said they didn't want to trouble Vivian. She was still getting settled after finishing grad school. I never asked how grad school had anything to do with a photography retreat in Santorini. Later, I paid off the last of her student loans. It was only $18,000. I remember Mom crying when I wrote the check. "You're such a blessing, Ma," she'd said, squeezing my hand. "Vivian just needs a little breathing room." Then came the request for Jonas's summer camp. "Just until her reimbursement check comes through," Dad had reassured me. That reimbursement never appeared. I covered the cost again the next summer, and again the one after that dot for years. I believe staying silent made me generous. That giving without asking anything in return proved I mattered. Tonight, they showed me that I didn't. I sat there, watching as a delivery van arrived, stacked high with trays of catered food. Another reminder that no one inside that hotel was lacking for anything. I unlocked my phone, my fingers steady now. My thumb hovered over Toby's contact. Then I pressed, "Hey, Na." He answered on the second ring, his voice warm and familiar. "Everything okay?" "No," I said, calm but certain. "I need you to freeze every account linked to me." Joint, co-signed, authorized, everything. There was a pause. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." He didn't argue, just began typing. When the call ended, I looked toward the hotel one last time. The party was still alive, music floating, laughter rising, the illusion of joy undisturbed. But something real had cracked beneath the surface. I placed the still wrapped present on the passenger seat, folded my hands in my lap, and waited. I didn't know for what, only that something deep inside me had shifted. And this time I wasn't going to ignore it. It began subtly, the way disappearances usually do. A canceled movie night, a postponed museum visit. Jonas has soccer. He's working on a group assignment. He's just tired from school. At first I accepted it. I didn't want to be overbearing. I told myself he'd call next weekend. I left cheerful voicemails, sent little care packages. I waited. Fridays used to be sacred. I'd pick him up from school. We'd share a cherry slush from the corner shop. He'd rattle off dinosaur facts: who was the fastest, the fiercest, the most misunderstood. That boy could talk for hours until one day he didn't. Now I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard his voice unfiltered. Every call was brief, Vivian hovering, "Say hi to Aunt Na," then click. Conversation over. But after the party, the silence between us took on a new weight. It gnawed at me. So I logged into my online banking to look at the linked accounts. What started out as simple curiosity soon turned my stomach. I found 3 credit cards I had long forgotten about. Accounts I opened years ago to help Vivian. Establish credit. They were all still active, all recently used. One had a $3,000 charge from a boutique hotel in Napa. Another had recurring payments to an upscale fitness club. The last one, purchases from a designer home decor store expensive enough to make my eyes widen. Then came the real blow. A personal loan, opened 2 years ago, with me listed as the co-signer. $42,000 and still growing. None of it added up. I'd never seen alerts, never received notifications. But then I remembered Vivian asking to forward my mail. The time she offered to handle Mom's insurance paperwork. Her insistence on helping me simplify my financial accounts. My generosity had been transformed into collateral, and my silence had become her open door access. Vivian didn't just remove me. She replaced me, one forged signature at a time. I stared at the spreadsheet I'd started compiling, line by line, cataloging every unauthorized charge, every login I never made. The figures didn't lie, and neither did the timestamps. My trust hadn't just been violated, it had been leveraged for profit. I picked up my phone once again. This time, it wasn't Toby I needed. It was Claire. By morning, my screen showed 11 missed calls, 8 from Vivian, 2 from my mother, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize, though I had a strong suspicion who it belonged to. I let every single one roll to voicemail. My coffee had long since gone cold when the phone rang once more. This time, I answered. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Vivian didn't bother with a greeting. Her voice came sharp, frantic. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You humiliated me in front of everyone. My cards were declined. The caterer nearly called the police. I kept my tone steady. Sounds like a party to remember. Don't be glib. This was Jonas's day, and you completely ruined it. I wasn't invited, remember?" I said, standing at the counter, voice calm. Apparently, I'm not close enough to be in the same room, but I was close enough to pay for it. Silence stretched on her end. "Then you've always been dramatic, always felt owed. And now you're going to tear this family apart over money?" "No," I said, my voice unshaken. "You did that the moment you started treating me like a line of credit instead of a sister." Another pause. "Then low. We were desperate. You forged my name. We didn't forge anything. I have the documentation, Vivian. I have transaction records, forged signatures, login histories. You impersonated me to take out loans you never planned to repay. She didn't deny it, not one word. I inhaled deeply. Now you know what it feels like to be erased. She hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't even angry anymore. What I wanted was something long overdue, a boundary. One that should have been drawn years ago. I reached for the folder I'd assembled the night, the four stacked with printouts, bank statements, emails, screenshots. Then I pulled out the business card I hadn't touched since Dad's first heart scare. 5 years ago, Claire Devlin, family law. She picked up after the second ring. Nah, it's been a while. I need your help, I said plainly. How bad are we talking? $87,000. And I want every cent back. Claire didn't gasp. She didn't offer empty sympathy. She simply said, come in tomorrow. Bring everything. After we hung up, I walked back to the table and slid Jemis's gift into the closet. Not because he didn't deserve it, but because the next time I gave him something, it was going to be on my terms. Claire didn't even blink as she sifted through the paperwork, page after page of itemized charges, copied signatures, timestamps, and lines of credit tied to my name, yet untouched by my own hands. She's slick, Claire muttered, tapping one of the forged authorization forms. But not slick enough, the handwriting doesn't match your legal signature, not even remotely. She placed a fresh sheet of paper on the desk. Here's what we're going to do. Formal demand letter. We'll ask for full reimbursement principal, interest, legal costs, and we sever all shared financial ties. Completely. I met her gaze. That's all I want. No, she said firmly. That's what you're asking for. But it's not all you want. The rest will come. Before I left her office, the letter was already drafted, signed, and set for certified delivery signature required. Vivian wouldn't be able to feign ignorance this time. That evening, I got the call I'd been expecting. But not from Vivian, from my father. Your mother's upset, he said, voice weighed down with disappointment. She thinks you're being unreasonable. She hasn't said a word to me. She's hurt. So am I, he let out a long sigh. Families argue. That's no reason to drag attorneys into it. You should have talked to Vivian directly. I did, I replied. Coolly, she lied to my face. Silence on the other end. Maybe you should have just let it go, he said quietly. This time, I didn't hesitate. Let it go, like she did with my identity. My money, my place in this family. She's your sister, he said, like that single word was a spell to undo everything. I could almost hear him shifting in his chair. It's not too late to stop all this. We can handle it as a family. No, Dad, I said, firm but calm. You had your chance to handle it. He didn't respond. Just another long sigh before the call disconnected. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring down at the phone in my hand like it might ring again. It didn't. I wasn't expecting it to. I returned to the table, opened the folder, and carefully slid in the printed copy of the demand letter. It wasn't just documentation, it was proof that I finally believed myself. The house looked larger than I remembered. Maybe it was the manicured hedges or the fresh coat of paint. Or maybe for the first time, I could clearly see how much of myself had been poured into a home that never truly saw me. I rang the doorbell once, then again. The chime echoed through the foyer like I was a stranger, not the person who had co-signed the original mortgage. Vivian opened the door with a polished smile, one that strained at the corners. Well, she said dryly, if it isn't the sheriff herself. I stepped inside without responding. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and high-end perfume. My parents were already seated in the living room, rigid and uncomfortable, as if they didn't know where to look or which side to take. My mother gave me a weak smile. My father refused to meet my eyes. Vivian crossed her arms and waited. You didn't have to do this. We could have talked it through. We did talk. You lied. So now I brought proof. I placed the folder on the coffee table. First page, the forged authorization form. Second, the loan application you insisted I signed. Pages 3 to 10. Credit card statements charges made in my name. Vivian glanced at the top sheet, then scoffed. You act like you're some kind of victim. You gave us that money? No. I believed I was helping my family. You turned it into a payment plan for a fantasy. You weren't generous, she hissed. You were naive. I held her gaze. No, I was family, and you betrayed that. Elliot finally looked at me, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Vivian, did you actually use her credit? Vivian didn't answer. Margaret reached for her hand. Vivian pulled away. I took a slow breath and straightened the pages. Call me foolish. Call me emotional. But starting today, you can call me done. You're going to blow up this whole family over money? You already did that. I'm just reclaiming what's mine. I turned toward the door. No one stopped me, not even my mother. As I left, I passed the family photo by the entry, fresh clothes, forced smiles, a shiny new frame. I wasn't in it. They'd replaced it last year. I hadn't noticed my absence until now. I closed the door behind me and drove straight to Claire's. Vivian's lawyer came in swinging, alleging emotional trauma, slander, and irreversible damage to her family. Claire didn't flinch. She let them talk, then calmly pushed 2 folders across the table. These documents show credit applications in my client's name, forged signatures, and more than $87,000 in unauthorized debt, she said. If you'd prefer to escalate, we're prepared to file charges for fraud, identity theft, and possible elder exploitation. Silence, immediate, heavy dot by Friday. The judge issued a freeze on all financial accounts Vivian had touched, including the ones she failed to report. Claire found them anyway. She always did. What no one anticipated was what followed. The court requested a complete financial audit of Vivian's household to determine Jonas's care environment, receipts, budgets, essentials. Vivian submitted salon receipts, a luxury spa membership, and a car lease worth more than my yearly income. What she didn't submit: a single record for Jonas's clothing, schooling, or daily care. 3 days later, the evaluator called me. Temporary custody was being transferred to my care pending review. Jonas arrived with a half-zipped backpack and wide eyes. He didn't. Ace KY. He walked in, kicked off his shoes, and went straight to the fridge like he used to. That evening, my parents came by not to help, but to protest. This is too much, Margaret said from the doorway, arms folded. Vivian's your sister, Elliot added. She's his mother. You're using a child to punish her. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me so Jonas wouldn't hear. No, I said quietly. I'm protecting a child from being treated like a trophy. You think you're better than us? Margaret asked, her voice trembling. No, I said, meeting her eyes. I just finally understand the difference between being present and being seen. They didn't respond. I didn't invite them in. As they walked away, I glanced back through the window. Jonas sat curled on the couch with the dinosaur blanket from when he was little. He looked safe. The girl who once begged to be included was gone. In her place, someone new was taking shape. We set up early 2 folding tables, a pop-up canopy, and a cooler of juice boxes. Claire brought balloons. The neighbor offered extra chairs. No caterers, no champagne. Just peanut butter sandwiches, cut into dinosaurs, and a homemade banner that read, Jonas turns 11. The kids didn't care that the cake came from the grocery store or that the party bags were unbranded. They raced through the yard, icing on their faces. Laughter loud and real. I sat on a blanket, watching it all unfold, feeling something settle, something steady. When Jonas opened his gift, his eyes lit up. The green one? He asked, holding up the exact toy helicopter he'd pointed to months ago. You remembered? Of course. He wrapped his arms around me. This is the best birthday ever. I blinked hard, pulling him close. Later, while cleaning up, I found an envelope tucked into a gift bag, a check from Damon, a note inside for party expenses. I held it for a long moment, then slipped it into my pocket. That night, I mailed it back. No message, just the envelope, because this wasn't about repayment. It wasn't about proving anything, not anymore. It was about Jonas, and about building something that didn't require chandeliers or our SVPs to feel real. As I wiped frosting from the table and watched him chase bubbles, I knew this birthday wouldn't make Instagram, but it was honest. This time. It was built on truth. And for the first time in years. So was I. Claire hosted us that Saturday, rain tapping the windows, coffee going. Cold. Just 4 women, no media, no pity. Just space to breathe. Ruth had been drained by her adult son's failed ventures. Elena had co-signed for a niece, only to face evictions and debt. We stitched our stories together, gently, like patching fabric. Kept giving, Ruth said, hoping they'd see me for more than my wallet. I nodded. I knew that hope, but they never did. Elena whispered. Until we stopped giving, not out of spite, but because we were tired of disappearing. Jonas now came every other weekend. It was in writing, court ordered. He brought cereal, left socks behind, made himself at home. We baked, played cards. We didn't talk about Vivian unless he brought her up. He usually didn't. Vivian moved to Tennessee. She filed one last complaint. The court denied it. Then she vanished. Every so often, I'd hear she had a new apartment, a new job. Still bitter, that never changed. Today, I stood barefoot in the grass, tea in hand, as Jonas ran across the yard, laughter trailing behind him like music. We're not rebuilding. The old, I said aloud, mostly to myself. We're starting something better, not perfect, but better. Because sometimes the legacy you inherit isn't love, it's silence. And sometimes the most powerful legacy you leave behind is a boundary.